Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of What Israel Is. I am Abishai, your host, and I want to begin first by giving a huge shout out and a thank you to Russian Deadpool of The Skeptic Feminist, as well as Skeptor, for the wonderful stream that we had about Israel, about religion in Israel, and the relationship between the religious groups and secularism in Israel, etc. You can watch it on my channel, on The Mirror, or on the Skeptic Feminists channel. It was a great conversation. I want to kind of also lay the way forward as far as this podcast goes. I will eventually get around to continuing the historical background to the conflict series. It is perhaps, I think, one of the more ambitious things I've been doing here on this podcast, but it also takes a bit of time and some effort. I will do this while interspersing some other types of content, for example, today. And let's just get right ahead to the topic. So today I want to discuss the Beta Israel. Beta Israel, we'll begin with the name. I actually touched upon this community, I believe, in the first episode ever of this podcast. Um, Beta Israel means in both Aramaic, which is an extinct Central Semitic language, and in the Ge'ez language of Ethiopia, which is also an extinct historical language. It means House of Israel. If you were kind of wondering how come it means the same thing in two different languages, well, they're both Semitic languages. They are related in the same family, even though one is a South Semitic language and the other is a Central Semitic language. There are some connections in vocabulary. Um, uh, as I said, the Beta Israel is among besides Aramaic, it's in the Ge'ez language of Ethiopia. Beta Israel is the Jewish community of Ethiopia. Jewish. I'm hesitant over using the term Jewish because Jewish has come to refer to religious practice. However, it stems from a more ethnic description. Specifically, Jewish refers to Judean, someone who comes from the kingdom of Judea, the historical kingdom of Judea. And this is not what Ethiopian Jews claim to be descended from. They do not claim to be Judeans. They actually claim to be descended from the Israelite tribe of Dan. Those not in the know of the history of and what is written within the Bible, essentially there were two Hebrew kingdoms practicing the same religion. One was the kingdom of Judea, which comprised of the tribes of Judea, Yehuda, Benjamin, and I believe Shimon. And the other tribes were the kingdom of Israel. And among those was the tribe of Dan, which the Ethiopian Jews, the Beta Israel, claim to be descended from. So I said that they are Jewish in terms of religion. You can call it a Hebrew religion, but because it is more commonly known as Judaism. We'll call them Jews, even though they're Israelites, whatever. So, for example, they do not, or at least did not until coming to Israel, they did not celebrate Hanukkah. And this might lend some credence to their belief that they are not descended from Judeans, but rather from Israelites, because the story of Hanukkah takes place centuries after the Israelites were dispersed from the land. So this is something that might lend credence to their claim. They were unfamiliar with the holiday before coming to Israel. They also have special holidays. So, for example, they have a holiday known as Sigd. And Sigd comes from a Semitic root which is shared in Hebrew and in Arabic, meaning worship. And in Sigd, essentially, a Ethiopian Jew reaffirms his belief in the Orit, or essentially Torah, the Torah. Orit comes from Aramaic Oraita, which means the Torah. And it is essentially a reaffirmation. This reaffirmation is kind of a defiance in the face of the Christian kings of Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is a majority Christian country with a rich and long history of Christianity and Christian rulers. They also, again, all of this is more of a historical background of the way Ethiopian Judaism used to be practiced. But we'll get to that later. So they practiced a more literal interpretation of biblical laws. So, for example, if we take "Thou shalt not seethe a kid in its mother's milk," within the more northernly branches of Judaism, this was taken to mean you may not eat meat and dairy together. But in Ethiopian Judaism, it was taken to mean you cannot cook a goat in milk. And this is also something that you can see in Karaite Judaism. Karaite Judaism is a branch of Judaism which split off from Rabbinical Judaism, claiming that there is nothing within the Jewish text that gives religious authority to interpretation, whatever, of the text and to rabbis, and that the only authority, the only religious authority is the book itself. And they practice a literal form of the Bible. This is relevant because in the beginning, when Jews were first encountered with Ethiopian Jews, they believed that they may be Karaites because of the way that they practiced the faith. Another difference is that Ethiopian Jews are priestly. They practice a priestly form of Judaism rather than a rabbinical one. Now, a rabbi is a community leader, but he does not fit within a hierarchy of leadership, of religious leadership. Whereas a priest is part of a bigger kind of network of religious authority. And within Ethiopian Judaism, they still have priests, or what we call Kohanim. In their language, they are called Kes, or Kahen. So again, Kohen, Kahen. One particular difference between the historical Kohanim and the case of Ethiopian Jews is that the Kohen is born into a lineage of Kohanim and thus inherits the status and the duty of being a priest, whereas the Kes, the Ethiopian Kohen, it's a profession really, and one chooses to be ordained to be a priest. They also have monks, which is a tradition not widely known within Judaism. And monks within the Ethiopian Judaism are considered among the holiest men. It may be something that the Ethiopian, the Beta Israel borrowed from their Christian neighbors. I don't know. So essentially the first written encounter between more northerly Jews and the Beta Israel is with a black Jewish traveler known as Eldad Hadani, who appeared before the Jewish community of Egypt. And as I said, because of his particular religious observances, they believed him to be maybe a Karaite, but then they saw that in other ways he was more similar to a rabbinical Jew. He also spoke a particular dialect of Hebrew that was unknown to them, or at least it was hard for them to understand. And he essentially claimed that he comes from a Jewish kingdom to the south of farmers mainly, and that they were descended from the tribe of Dan, as I said, and that they immigrated during the Israelite Judean civil war following the death of King Solomon. Others have since also claimed to have immigrated to Ethiopia even before that, choosing not to follow Moses into the Promised Land, rather going south to and setting down in Ethiopia. It should be also mentioned that the Christian Ethiopians also claim to be descended from the people of Israel, but rather from King Solomon himself. And this is not a claim that is often acknowledged by Beta Israel. As I said, Eldad Adani actually proclaimed that he comes from a Jewish kingdom. It should be noted that throughout Ethiopian history, Jews had actual autonomy from time to time and had their own kingdoms. By the time of the 20th century, this was no longer the case, though, and most were under Christian rule. The Jewish community of the Beta Israelites is essentially split into two main groupings. One is that they're not entirely separate because one essentially came from the other. So you have Beta Israel, of which I spoke, and then you have Falash Mura. Falash Mura is probably a mispronunciation that kind of became the standard of the way it's said. But the Falash Mura are essentially crypto-Jews. They're Jews that converted to Christianity, either voluntarily or under pressure. And if you go around Israel, it is not uncommon to see Ethiopian Jewish women, particularly older ones, who are adorned with cross tattoos, particularly on the forehead or on the hands. these are probably, they were probably tattooed as kind of a way to ensure that their conversion is true, is real. Um, and the Falash Mura, there was a lot of debate as to whether or not the law of return should apply to the Falash Mura. And in 2003, it was finally decided that the people of the Falash Mura should be allowed to immigrate to Israel so long as they convert to Judaism. So even if they proclaim that they're Jewish, this is not enough, and they need to reconvert into Judaism. It should be noted that between the Falash Mura and the Beta Israel, the rest of the Beta Israel, there is some amount of bad blood, and there is often a bit of hostility between Beta Israel and the Falash Mura. Perhaps even racism. As I said before about the different religious practices of the Beta Israel, there is a trend in Israel of the Beta Israel becoming Jewified, so that their religion becoming the religious authorities in Israel are doing their best to remove any idiosyncratic element of the Ethiopian Jewish tradition, of completely removing any difference between their Jewish observances and that of mainstream rabbinical Judaism. This is something that is going on. And, well, I'm bringing this up because, among other things, I want people to kind of be, to get a bigger picture of what Jews are and the kind of diversity that we have going on. But this isn't just some kind of hollow virtue signaling, because, well, Ethiopian Jews are not treated perfectly in Israel. There's police brutality going on, and not anything near, Black Lives Matter kind of things, but there are stories about some sort of legal tests going on, or things about Israel, the authorities making Ethiopian women infertile. I'm not sure about that. I'll try and do some research about it, and if this seems like a true story, I'll bring it here. And other things. It's just to give a picture of the fact that they exist. They're a pretty big community, and one that has presence within Israeli, the Israeli population at large. So this is it for today. I think I'll start doing these kind of episodes about other communities, for example, maybe the Jews of Babylon, and maybe Moroccan Jews, the Jews of Germany. I'll see where my muse takes me. But until then, have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.